Alrighty, so what we're going to look at today is a new system that I've been developing. So when you're first starting out and you've got to learn the most basic chords, sometimes it can become pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. Most of it is because we're not being musical and we're trying to, we've got a head in our book and we're trying to learn where our fingers have to go, what strings they have to go on, what fret we have to place them in. And then we've got to try and incorporate the right hand with the left hand. And then when it comes to trying to play along with something, it all just becomes too much. So in this new system, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on simple tasks and build them up each week. So in this first week, what we're going to learn about is what we call the root note or the bass note of a chord. So there's 9 common chords. These are the chords that we normally use. There's an A major chord, A minor, C major, D major, D minor, E major, E minor, F major, and a G major. Now, like I said before, normally what we would do is we'd print out a diagram and we would start learning where to place our fingers, where to strum it from. We're trying to make sure that there's no buzzing or muting within the chord. And because we're trying to do so much at once, like I said, it becomes pretty overwhelming, and it can also be pretty frustrating as well because we can't actually remember what the chord names are or where to place our fingers, or it's not sounding right because we've got buzzing or muting. And that's before we've even started bringing in the right hand or even started playing along with anything. So you can see why this can be a long journey taking that part. So what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you what the bass notes or the root notes of each chord is, and then we're going to start learning 5 songs, okay? But you can apply this concept over any 5 songs you like. I'm just going to do some examples for you. So here we go. The easiest way to remember, if you don't know your string names, here we go, from the top. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. So spend a little bit of time just going E, A, D, G, B, E. And you use that little rhyme to help you remember. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Alright, now we've got 2 different types of chords. One's called a major chord and one's called a minor chord. So the 9 common, there's 6 major and 3 minor chords. So it's really easy to remember because the bottom 3 strings is E, A, and D. So what I want you to remember is whenever there's an E major chord or an E minor chord, the bass note or the root note would be the open low E string, just like this. If there's an A major chord or an A minor chord, then the bass note would be the open A string. And if there's a D major chord or a D minor chord, then it would be this open D string. So that's actually 6 of the 9 right there. So we've got E's, A, and D. Now, there's 3 fretted chords. So those ones are G, and most of the time when they're fretted, it's the lowest note. These have the open string, the E's, A's, and D's. But the next 3, which is G, C, and F, they don't have the open string above them, so the lowest finger in the chord is actually the bass note. So this is what a G chord looks like. We're going to focus on the 2nd finger up on the low E string on the 3rd fret. Aim for about the center for this chord, and what we're going to do is pluck the low E string, and that's a G note. And that's the bass note of a G major chord. And then what we're actually going to do is use our 3rd finger and go to the A string on the 3rd fret, and that is the C note. That's the bass note for a C major chord. And then if we take that 3rd finger down one more onto the D string, that note there is an F, and that would be the bass note of an F chord. Now you will see that when it comes to G, you could use your 2nd finger because we're going to use this shape later on. But we can also use our 3rd finger because sometimes we play G like this. And the same with the C, we can use our 3rd finger for the traditional fingers for a C like this. But we can also use our 2nd finger because we actually play C add 9 like this. So it really depends on what kind of chord shape you're going to use. Just like with F, it can be played like this for this shape, We can also use the bass note up on the low E string on the first fret for F2, because that would be the bass note of the F bar chord shape. So just take your time and try out all of them, just depending on what's happening in the song, alright? So we're going to do our first example now. So all we're doing is playing the bass notes. I'm going to take a song called Hotel California. Now I can't actually play it for you because we don't want to have any copyright issues. But what I'm actually going to do is just run you through the chord progressions, and then you can actually go online, find the song, and then try and play along with it. Now, the idea is this. We're going to bring our left hand, our right hand together at the same time to perform a simple task along with the music. Traditionally, we'd be focusing on our left hand and then try to focus on our right hand and then try to mash the two together, and then they'd be like fighting with one another, and then try and play over the song later on. Now, because we were trying to play full chords to start with, the music's gone too fast and we can't keep up with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to scratch all that and we're just going to focus on level 1, which is the bass notes. So what you're going to do is we're going to follow the chord progression. We're going to make sure our left hand and our right hand playing together at the same time with the music. And that way we're bringing everything in together nicely, and we're going to build this up in levels over the next few weeks. So here we go. The chord progression for Hotel California, the verse. If you have a capo one, you can use these open chord shapes, which is A minor, E7, G, then a D, F major, C major, D minor, and E major. Now the major minor bit actually doesn't really matter at the moment because we're just playing the bass notes. So let's walk through this. The A minor, we're just going to play the open A. Then for the E7, we're just going to play the open E. And then for the G, we're just going to play the G note. And then for the D, we're going to play the open D string. And then when it comes for F, we can play it with here with our third finger down on the D string. And then we're going to move up to the A string for the C note. And then for D, we're going to play open D. And then for the last E, we're going to play open E. So your first task is just to try and memorize that and just go through those single notes. Maybe break it up into groups of 4. So A for A minor, E for E7, G for the G chord, and then D for the D major. Once you've got that block, now the next one is F, then up to C, down to D, and then back to E. Alright. Once you've got that familiar, now it's time to put on the music. So if you go onto YouTube and you look for, there's actually a fantastic channel called Guitar Zero to Hero. And one of the reasons is it's really well laid out and it actually shows you the chord progressions and you can actually play along with the music in time. And that's what's really important right here. So what we do is we put the music on and we have this thing called bars. So we're going to have 4 beats per bar, which will be counted like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pluck the bass note, a single pluck on the right hand, a single note on the left hand, in time on the first beat of each bar. So with Hotel California, it goes for 2 bars for each chord. So if we go to practice, it would sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would be all you have to practice for the whole week in context with the music. Now, because you're not trying to play these big full chords straight away, it means that you're only focusing on a small portion of the chord And actually, probably the most important part of the chord, because it's the bit that the chord is built from, the low note, the bass note. It's actually funny that more experienced players even sometimes don't realize what the bass note is, and it's not their fault. It's because of the way that we learn them. We're not focused on those things. This is really important because this is actually where we strum the chord from, and it's what gives it that low resonating sound. So it's really important to see where this chord was built from. This way is just a much better way of learning. When we get into it later on, when we get into the full course, it's actually going to have a lot more detail, a lot more resources available, video, examples, and all of that kind of stuff. So this is just a bit of an overview to get you started, and then I want to see how you go and progress with this. So you put the song on, and then you practice along with the song. And at the moment, we're not focusing on playing the full song, we're just focusing on the chord progressions, okay? Alright, now we're going to take a look at another quick song. So another one's called Brown Eyed Girl. Alright, now the verse for that is G. Alright, so it's G, C, G, and D. But we're just doing level 1, so bass note. So G, C, G, D. Now what's really important about these levels is, as we progress through the levels, we're going to be adding on new strings and new notes. So it's very important to make sure that each level you use the correct finger, so that when you add on the new note, it's going to make sense as we build the chords, okay? So when you do a G chord with our second finger, we want to pivot our wrist around this way to make the C note. And the reason is when we play the full chord, we would actually make that movement. So we're going to try and do that now. So G, pivot around to C, back up to G, and then down to D. The way we practice that is 1 bar per chord. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now you can actually practice that along with the song, and because we're just doing the bass note again, it's going to be a much simpler task than the full chord. All right. When it goes to the chorus, it goes to C, then to a D, and then G, and then E minor, and then C, then to a D, and then to a G, and then to a D. Alright? And they're all 1 bar each as well. So hopefully you can see what's going on here. Level 1, just a bass note. You see that we're using our left hand and our right hands together, and we'll be playing along with the music at the same time. Okay. Now, just to repeat, I can't actually play along with it now because we don't want a copyright strike. But if you go and check out, what to do is go onto YouTube, type in the song you want, and then write either with tabs or with chords. And if you go and check out Guitar Zero to Hero, you'll see the layout that we're looking for. We're looking for someone who's playing the song in context, generally showing the guitar, and then across the bottom they have the tabs or they have the chords going along so you can follow along with them. The idea is that everything is there all in one place. Okay, we're going to take another quick look at another song. Okay, so the Gambler, alright. The verse is D, and then G, and then D, and then A. Right? But it's 2 bars of D, 1 bar of G, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4. So that was 2 bars of D, 1 bar of G, then it's 4 bars of D, and then 1 bar of A. And if you follow along with that, you'll be able to play along with the song. Let's try that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Then it goes D, G, and then it actually goes back and forth. So it goes 2 bars of D, G, D, G, D, A, D. Like I said, later on we can have charts and we can have all the correct resources and things to play along with, and then we'll be able to build this up. Alrighty? And you just keep, the idea is we find these songs that are just using these simple 9 chords, and then we just follow along straight along with the bass notes. Alright, so that's what I want you to do this week for me. And then after a bit of feedback, we're going to talk a bit about it, and then next week we're going to start adding level 2 to this, okay? Feel free in the comments below to let me know what songs you're going to try out, and if you have any questions or anything like that, and then we're going to start developing this as we go along. Alright, so please ask questions. I'm more than happy to help out in any way possible. Make sure you like and subscribe the video so that you can see the new one that comes out next week. Okay, next week we're going to be focusing on level 1 and 2. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for your time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.